Welcome everyone to Breakthrough Leadership. I'm Matt DeYoung.
I'm Greg Yates.
And this is Season 1, Episode 6. And in today's vlog, we're going to talk about how to send an unforgettable message as a leader. So Greg, let's talk a little bit about why we need to talk simplicity and unforgettable message. Why is this an issue?
Because we're tired of being misunderstood. We're tired of finding out that what we thought was so clear was absolutely confusing to the rest of the organization.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that this comes up is not that leaders aren't communicating, not that we're not having meetings, not that we're not having offsites, not that we're not sending memos and emails and all this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of communicating, but the problem is an forgettable message.
Yeah.
But why does this happen? Is it because it's different at the team size of 10 versus 100?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a massive amount of dilution that can occur the more people that are involved.
Right.
What did you hear? Let's face it, the larger the group that's in a room and you ask everybody what they heard, you're going to get a variety of different answers. The more times it moves from one person to the next person to the next person, the more obvious opportunity there is for the message to get convoluted, not more clear. It's going to get more confusing, right? That's why we have to have a sustainable way, a consistent way to create a message that's unforgettable and nobody can fail to be on the same page.
So let's just say that there's an inverse relationship between organizational size and the simplicity that's demanded.
That's right. That's right.
So the first thing that we want to talk about roughly 4 things today. And the first thing that we want to talk about is the why of your message. Why is this important to focus on the why of your message?
Yeah. Well, how many times have you ever heard somebody say, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why they're doing this. Why does your company do this? Why does the company require this? Why is this paperwork or this? Why is it required? And you hear a person from, hopefully not your organization, but from some organization, you hear them say, I don't know why. They just require us to do this. I don't know why. How many times have you heard that? And usually what it means is, the implication is the people in leadership don't know what's going on, and so they're requiring something from us that's unimportant. Why is that, Matt? Because that person doesn't understand the why of the decision that's been made. The message has failed to have a why. Every message has got to have a why. So what's the why of your message?
Right. So it'd be fantastic if same scenario, someone said, I don't know why they're doing that. And another person, not the leader, said, well, actually, this is why we're doing this.
Right. It's got to be that clear.
It's got to be that clear.
Simple.
Okay, so the next thing, so first we have the why of the message. The second thing is the passion of the message. And this is, I think, often overlooked. What are we talking about here?
It's a huge issue. And the smaller the team, again, let's get into that. The smaller the team, your circle of passion as a leader exudes to the people around you. But that's a diminishing return. I mean, as it gets further and further and further from the nucleus, you get a diminishing result. If the passion that you delivered a message with is unable to reach the people who are carrying that message to fulfillment, then you've got a problem. So it's really critical that the passion of the message is understood. Otherwise, your returns are going to be massively diminishing.
Yeah, and just one more point on that, to translate your passion from your team, especially if you're running a large organization, you might have higher level leaders, but they need to take that to the next level, to their next year.
Everybody, there's a concept, obviously out there. I think, what's the name of the book? The Tipping Point talks about connectors, right? You have to know in your organization who the connectors are that are going to get your message. They're going to duplicate that circle of passion that you have into your organization. You got to be able to do that. And so creating the passion, knowing the passion of your message, that passion somehow has to move with the message. The why has to move with the message. The passion has to move with the message. And I don't want to get too complicated here, but we have to be able to do that. And it's not going to happen through a memo or a note. It's going to happen through personal connectivity.
I like how you're talking that the message ultimately has some sort of kinetic energy. It
it's
has
alive.
to move forward. It's alive.
It has to be alive.
But to be alive, it has to translate. It has to move beyond you, your passion, and the why. But part of moving messages is language. So now let's talk about the language of your message.
Yeah, the consistency of that language is so amazing. I love the use of the term tribal knowledge.
Right.
You know, what does that mean? Well, to me at least, it means that the people in your tribe know what this means, right? Because you're used to speaking in these terms. You're using consistent language in order to get a consistent result, a schema.
Yep.
Everything about this has to be using your own tribal language. So you have to not only know about the why of the message and the passion of the message, you've got to carefully craft the language of the message so that the people hearing the message understand it in a tribal sense.
Yeah, maybe this gets lost a little bit, the language of your tribe or of your team, the language of your message. As Americans, we're here in the United States here, there's a very ambiguous language. But some languages like Hebrew or Greek or Japanese are very precise. And so you need to have your own precise language. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, every organization has terminology that exists either in their company or it exists within their field. You know what I mean? If you're going to talk to a tool maker about the terminology of their business, everybody else in the room might not understand what you're even talking about. You're going to talk to a pilot. There are certain terminology that exists. Not only do you have to be able to use that terminology correctly, but you need to create your own language. That's probably a topic for another day.
It absolutely is. So first we have the why of the message, the passion of the message, the language of your message, and finally the definition of your message, Greg.
Yeah, that's huge. Huge. The definition of the message. If you don't define what success means within your message, that definition is going to be made up by somebody else. Now, you may not be with me yet on this, but the reality is very clear. Let me tell you a little story about that.
Give an example of
this. A great example that I have from just one off the cuff from one of our previous businesses in manufacturing. We had great opportunity to expand. Our customer base in a particular area of our business was growing. We were struggling to meet their demand, and the opportunity for a new contract was going to mean a lot of profitability for the company. So we bought a new piece of equipment. It cost over $500,000. And when they had delivered that piece of equipment, people stood around and looked in awe at that piece of equipment. And you want to know what the feedback I heard from the floor was through some of my connected people?
What was it?
The feedback I heard was they bought this piece of equipment to keep from paying out our profit sharing. Now, number one, capital improvements had nothing to do with profit sharing.
Right.
And secondly, it was the greatest opportunity probably in 5 years for us to increase profitability. But the problem was I had not taken the definition of that message all the way where it was going to be useful. They defined that for themselves. Even though they heard the message, they heard the why, they heard the passion. We were passionate about expanding the business, and they understood the language of it because they understood the piece of equipment we were buying, but they didn't understand the definition of the message. The message did not make it there with a proper definition that couldn't be hijacked. The message became hijacked, and it becomes impossible to reclaim messages like that once they've been perverted. You have to define what success looks like within your message, what it tastes like, what it feels like, and it's got to be repeatable, or else that message, the definition of that message, is going to be hijacked. Somebody else is going to define it for you.
And Greg, let's do this up front. Like you say, once that social withdrawal has happened where people have already made up their message, now it just looks like you're backpedaling. Yeah. But I think every leader can identify with your story, Greg, even whatever their sector is, whatever marketplace they're in, because they've all had that moment where you say, it's going to be great, and then it backfires. But this is why, because we didn't have the definition of our message in advance.
Yep.
So just recapping, we have the why of our message. We got to focus on that, especially in large teams. Passion of our message, Greg, and then the language of our message, and finally, the definition of your message.
That's it.
So otherwise, it's going to just fill in for us. So we got to do that. Hey, this is how to send an unforgettable message as a leader. We hope you learned something today. We hope you use it, put it into action. I'm Matt DeYoung, Greg Yates from Breakthrough Leadership. See you next time.